You woke up this morning and noticed it again. Nothing. No morning erection. Maybe it has been weeks, maybe months. You tell yourself it is just age. You tell yourself it is normal. You convince yourself that this is what happens when you hit 60. But let me tell you something that your doctor probably has not told you, and it might be the most important thing you hear all year. The disappearance of morning erections is not a normal part of aging. It is a medical signal. It is your body sending you a message that something critical has changed in your vascular system. And here is what nobody wants to say out loud. When morning wood stops, your heart is already in trouble. I am sharing the latest science and mechanisms with you, but I am not your doctor. This is educational intelligence for you to take to your medical team. What I am about to explain is the connection between nocturnal erections and cardiovascular health, and why the absence of morning erections is one of the earliest and most reliable predictors of heart disease in men over 50. This is not about vanity. This is about survival. Let me start by explaining what morning erections actually are, because most men do not understand the biological purpose behind them. Morning wood, clinically called nocturnal penile tumescence, happens 3 to 5 times every single night during REM sleep. It has nothing to do with sexual arousal. It has nothing to do with dreams. It is an automated systems check. Your body is testing the hydraulic integrity of your penile vasculature. Think of it like this. You have a high-performance engine, and every night while you sleep, your body runs a diagnostic test to make sure all the hoses, valves, and pumps are working. Morning erections are proof that the test passed. Here is the mechanism. During REM sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system takes over. This is the rest and repair mode. Your brain sends signals down the spinal cord to the pelvic nerves, which trigger the release of nitric oxide from the endothelial cells lining the blood vessels in your penis. Nitric oxide is the master key. It activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase, which produces cyclic GMP. Cyclic GMP relaxes the smooth muscle in the arterial walls, allowing blood to flow into the corpora cavernosa, the sponge-like chambers that fill with blood to create an erection. This happens automatically. It happens whether you want it to or not. It is your body maintaining the tissue, keeping it oxygenated, keeping it alive. When morning erections stop, it means one of 3 things has failed. Either your endothelial cells are no longer producing nitric oxide, or your arteries are too damaged to dilate, or your nervous system is no longer sending the signal. And here is the critical connection. The same endothelial dysfunction that prevents blood flow to your penis is happening in your coronary arteries, the arteries that feed your heart. The penile artery is 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter. Your coronary arteries are 3 to 4 millimeters. The penile artery clogs first. It is smaller. It is more sensitive. It is the early warning system. When you lose morning erections, it means you have widespread endothelial dysfunction, and your heart is next in line. There is a landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that tracked over 2,000 men between the ages of 50 and 70 for a decade. The men who reported loss of nocturnal erections had a 47% higher risk of major cardiac events, including heart attack and stroke, within 5 years. 47%. And the men who ignored the signal, who did not change their lifestyle, who did not talk to their doctor, had a mortality rate that was 62% higher than men who still had regular morning erections. This is not a coincidence. Your penis is a dipstick for your cardiovascular system. Now let me take you deeper into the biology, because understanding the why is what empowers you to do something about it. The endothelium is the single layer of cells that lines the inside of every blood vessel in your body. It is 1 cell thick, but it is one of the most metabolically active tissues you have. The endothelium is responsible for producing nitric oxide, which regulates blood pressure, prevents clots, and controls inflammation. When your endothelium is healthy, your blood vessels are flexible, responsive, and clean. When your endothelium is damaged, everything breaks down. What damages the endothelium? Chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, trans fats, smoking, alcohol, sedentary behavior. And here is the part that most men do not realize. The damage is cumulative. It does not happen overnight. It happens over decades. Every poor meal, every skipped workout, every night of terrible sleep, every period of chronic stress, all of it adds up. And by the time you've hit 60, if you have not been protecting your endothelium, the damage is significant. Your body has been running a deficit for years, and now the bill is due. When your endothelial cells are damaged, they stop producing nitric oxide. Without nitric oxide, your blood vessels cannot dilate. Without dilation, blood cannot flow. And here is the cascade. Low nitric oxide leads to high blood pressure because your vessels are constricted. High blood pressure causes more endothelial damage. More damage means less nitric oxide. It is a vicious cycle, and the first place you notice it is in the smallest, most sensitive arteries, the ones in your penis. But there is another factor that accelerates this process, and it is one that most men are completely unaware of: testosterone. Testosterone is not just a sex hormone, it is a vascular hormone. It directly stimulates nitric oxide production. It increases the sensitivity of your endothelial cells. It reduces inflammation. It improves insulin sensitivity. It protects the lining of your arteries. When testosterone declines, which it does naturally after the age of 30 at a rate of about 1% per year, your vascular system loses one of its primary protective mechanisms. By the time you are 60, if you have not done anything to support your testosterone levels, you could be operating at 50 to 60% of what you had in your 30s. That is a massive loss of vascular protection. And here is where it gets even more complex. Low testosterone increases the activity of an enzyme called aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. Elevated estrogen in men promotes fat storage, particularly visceral fat around the organs. Visceral fat is metabolically active. It produces inflammatory cytokines. It releases free fatty acids into the bloodstream. It increases insulin resistance. All of this further damages the endothelium. So low testosterone does not just reduce nitric oxide directly. It creates a metabolic environment that accelerates vascular decay. Now let me contrast what we thought we knew 10 years ago with what the science tells us today. Because this is where the old advice fails men like us. In the 2010s, the standard advice for erectile dysfunction was simple. Take a pill, Viagra, Cialis, Levitra. These are PDE5 inhibitors. They work by blocking the enzyme that breaks down cyclic GMP, which means the nitric oxide you do produce has a longer effect. And yes, they work. For a while. But here is what nobody told you. PDE5 inhibitors are a band-aid. They are not addressing the root cause. They are not fixing your endothelium. They are not increasing your nitric oxide production. They are not reversing the vascular damage. They are just amplifying whatever signal is left. And if your endothelial function continues to decline, eventually, even the pills stop working. The new science, the 2025 and 2026 research, is focused on endothelial restoration. We now understand that you can regenerate endothelial function. You can increase nitric oxide production. You can reverse early-stage vascular damage. But it requires a systemic approach. It requires addressing inflammation, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and hormonal balance simultaneously. The old model treated erectile dysfunction as a singular symptom. The new model treats it as a manifestation of systemic vascular disease. Here is another thing we got wrong. The old advice said cholesterol is the enemy. Lower your cholesterol and you will be fine. But we now know that cholesterol is not the primary driver of endothelial dysfunction. Inflammation is, oxidative stress is, glycation, the process where sugar molecules bind to proteins and damage tissues, is. You can have perfect cholesterol levels and still have terrible endothelial function if you have chronic inflammation. The focus has shifted from lipid panels to inflammatory markers. C-reactive protein, homocysteine, oxidized LDL. These are the metrics that actually predict cardiovascular risk. And here is the part that changes everything. Morning erections are one of the most sensitive biomarkers for endothelial health. More sensitive than a standard lipid panel. More sensitive than a resting EKG. If you are waking up with strong, spontaneous erections 3 to 5 times a week, your endothelial function is good. Your nitric oxide production is intact. Your vascular system is responding. But if morning erections have disappeared, you have a problem that needs immediate attention. And the good news is that if you act now, you can reverse it. Let me give you the tactical protocol. These are the interventions that have the strongest evidence for restoring endothelial function and supporting nitric oxide production. This is not theory. This is applied biology. Step 1. You need to consume nitrate-rich vegetables daily, and I am going to tell you exactly why and how. Nitrates from vegetables, particularly beets, arugula, spinach, and celery, are converted by bacteria in your mouth into nitrite. That nitrite travels to your stomach, where it is converted into nitric oxide. This is the dietary nitric oxide pathway, and it is one of the most reliable ways to boost systemic nitric oxide levels. The research shows that consuming 300 to 500 milligrams of dietary nitrates per day, which is roughly 1 cup of cooked beets or 2 cups of arugula, increases nitric oxide bioavailability by 30 to 40%. That translates directly to improved blood flow, lower blood pressure, and better erectile function. But here is the critical part. You need to stop using mouthwash. Mouthwash kills the oral bacteria that convert nitrates to nitrate. If you are rinsing with antiseptic mouthwash twice a day, you are destroying the first step of the pathway. Brush your teeth, but skip the mouthwash. Step 2. You need L-Citrulline, not L-Arginine. Most men have heard of L-Arginine as the amino acid that boosts nitric oxide. And yes, L-Arginine is the direct precursor to nitric oxide. The enzyme nitric oxide synthase converts L-Arginine into nitric oxide in your endothelial cells. But here's the problem. When you take L-Arginine orally, most of it gets broken down by the enzyme arginase in your gut and liver before it ever reaches your bloodstream. The bioavailability is terrible. L-Citrulline, on the other hand, is not broken down by arginase. It gets absorbed intact, travels to your kidneys where it is converted into L-Arginine, and then that arginine is available to your endothelial cells to produce nitric oxide. The research shows that 6 to 8 grams of L-Citrulline per day increases plasma arginine levels more effectively than arginine supplementation itself. And the studies on erectile function are clear. Men supplementing with L-Citrulline show significant improvement in erection hardness scores within 4 to 6 weeks. Take it in the morning on an empty stomach for maximum absorption. Step 3. You need to address insulin resistance because this is the silent killer of endothelial function. Insulin resistance means your cells are no longer responding properly to insulin. Your pancreas has to produce more and more insulin to get the same effect. Chronically elevated insulin levels promote inflammation, increase oxidative stress, and directly damage the endothelial lining. Even if you are not diabetic, even if your fasting glucose looks normal, you can still be insulin resistant. The best marker is your fasting insulin level. It should be below 5. If it is above 10, you have a problem. The solution is time-restricted eating and resistance training. You need to give your body at least 12 to 14 hours every day without food. This allows your insulin levels to drop, which gives your cells a chance to regain sensitivity. And you need to lift heavy things. Resistance training increases glucose uptake by your muscles independent of insulin. It improves insulin sensitivity faster than any medication. 3 sessions per week of compound movements, squats, deadlifts, presses, is enough to create a measurable improvement in insulin dynamics within 4 weeks. Step 4. You need to optimize your testosterone, and I am not necessarily talking about injections. I am talking about creating the internal environment that supports natural testosterone production. Testosterone is synthesized from cholesterol in the Leydig cells of your testicles. The process requires zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and adequate sleep. Zinc acts as a cofactor for the enzymes that convert cholesterol into testosterone. If you are deficient in zinc, your testosterone production is compromised. The RDA for zinc is 11 milligrams, but men over 50 who are actively trying to support testosterone should aim for 30 milligrams per day from a combination of food and supplements. Oysters, red meat, pumpkin seeds, and it needs to be in a bioavailable form, zinc picolinate or zinc glycinate, not zinc oxide, which has poor absorption. Magnesium is equally critical. It increases free testosterone by reducing the binding of testosterone to sex hormone binding globulin. 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate before bed supports both testosterone production and sleep quality. And vitamin D is not optional. Vitamin D receptors are present on Leydig cells. Low vitamin D is directly associated with low testosterone. Get your level above 50 nanograms per milliliter. Most men need 4,000 to 5,000 IU per day to maintain that level. Step 5. You need to train your cardiovascular system with high-intensity interval work, because this is what directly stimulates endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme that produces nitric oxide in your blood vessels. Steady-state cardio is fine for general health, but it does not create the shear stress needed to upregulate nitric oxide production. High-intensity intervals, short bursts of maximum effort, followed by recovery, create turbulent flow in your arteries. That turbulence activates mechanoreceptors in your endothelial cells, which signal the upregulation of eNOS. More eNOS means more nitric oxide. The protocol is simple. 2 to 3 times per week, after your resistance training or on separate days, perform 6 to 8 rounds of 30-second all-out sprints. Bike, row, run, whatever you can sustain, followed by 90 seconds of active recovery. The total work time is only 4 minutes, but the vascular stimulus is profound. Studies show measurable increases in flow-mediated dilation, the gold standard test for endothelial function, within 6 weeks of consistent interval training. Now let me bring this full circle, because everything I have shared with you is meaningless if you do not understand why this matters beyond your own body. You are not just a man. You are a father. You are a grandfather. You are a leader. The men in your family, your sons, your grandsons, they are watching you. They are learning from you. And if they see you decline quietly, if they see you accept dysfunction as inevitable, that is what they will accept for themselves. But if they see you take ownership, if they see you educate yourself, if they see you make the hard changes and reclaim your vitality, you give them permission to do the same. Your morning erection is not about sex. It is about life. It is proof that your vascular system is intact. It is proof that your heart has fuel. It is proof that you are still in the fight. And when it disappears, it is not a signal to give up. It is a signal to act. You have more control over this than you think. Your endothelium can heal. Your nitric oxide production can increase. Your testosterone can be optimized. Your cardiovascular system can be restored, but only if you make the decision today that you are not going to be a statistic.